action speaks louder than words, so we are a platform where we share climate solutions, so scalable, viable, optimist solution that can do an impact right here, right now.
I think the thing I find most promising about being here from Ingka Group and IKEA and really looking at what we're doing with the circular agenda is how many solutions already exist today, and how we need to just come together with the political will and the business will to finance and unlock them. There's so much exciting stuff. The solutions are small scale, solutions at a large scale. And if we have the right policies to help drive and support those solutions, for example, like our RetourMatras, where we have an investment in mattresses recycling, if we could scale that up and amplify and just think how many millions of mattresses go to landfill or in incineration every year, and we now have the capacity to recycle 2.5 million in the Netherlands, Belgium and now France, just started in France. I think the world's our oyster in terms of that, and we can harvest the precious raw materials and reuse them in our own supply chain or the supply chain of others. And that's just one example. So I'm super excited by seeing the innovation, the creative spark and everything going on here from a circular point of view.
If I look back to the beginning, we were already happy if we had dismantled 1,000 mattresses a month. If I tell you now that one facility is dismantling 1,500 mattresses per day, it's a big difference, but we celebrate it.
We do have a lot of members here. Our booth over there. Examples are we do have floors that are negative carbon emissions. We also have a company that called Keep a Technology, where you can see the expiry date on food, that it's longer than expected on the shelf life in the stores. So there are variable solutions, and we do have 5 topics. So within those topics, we share those solutions around the world.
So last year we dismantled 1.5 million mattresses actually.
We fill a gap that needs to be filled. I think there's a lot of interaction between investors and in climate actions, between investors and innovators. But I think where there's a huge opportunity is in interaction between small companies and large companies. Not only through investment, but also to providing the scale to develop operations for big companies to put their political weight behind climate actions that are developed by innovators, and by collaboration between large and small companies to accelerate the solutions we need to create a circular economy. What is Action Speaks? Action Speaks is a community we started in 2023, New York Climate Week, to create hope and optimism to accelerate climate action. And what we believe is that many of the ideas and the solutions that we need to combat climate change are already existing today. So here we are at ChangeNOW. We have an exhibition there where we showcase 9 of these circular economy solutions. And already this morning I've had a chance to get to know a lot of other circular economy solutions that are here today. But we also want to be humble, and we want to share that we are not yet where we need to be. We need to work together to collaborate, to scale it. And that's why we are also here today, where we'll have in this session a more informal way of brainstorming and sharing what are each of us doing for scaling circular economy climate solutions. When we ask our community, like, what is the biggest enabler for scale, they indeed mention policy as the big enabler. And if we think about policy, we think about policymakers. But we always like to think in Action Speaks, what action can we take? How can we organize ourselves as a group, as businesses? How can we influence policy? Can you share some examples of how you do that?
I think, I've talked briefly about policy, and of course we have a brilliant public affairs team that work in Brussels and on the ground in the countries to work together to try and drive positive change and momentum, partnering with other like-minded businesses. So I think if there's a collective will of private enterprises coming together, that can really show that the will is there. And then businesses like ours that are big brands and they're recognized are listened to. So we can then pull other brands along with us as well, which is fantastic, of course. But we do things in other ways. I think we've got sort of 4 main ways that we try and drive things. One is what we do in our own operations. There's no point sort of lobbying over there if we've not got our own house in order. So we obviously need to do a lot of work in our own operations. One is the offer to customers and really making sure that they understand what they can do with their everyday lives. Then we have advocacy that I've talked about, and then we have our Ingka Investments arm, which invests in different companies, always through the lens of ESG. So if we talk own operations, it's switching to zero emission deliveries. It's having 1 million solar panels on the roofs of our buildings, and all those things, and switching to renewable heating and cooling, reducing the waste in our operations. We've got 77% recycling rate now, and it's 91% in France in our own operations. So all of those things show our co-workers and show our customers that we're serious about what we're doing. And we need to talk about it with our CFOs and our country boards and our board members through the eyes and ears of a business person. So in the panel I was in earlier today with Hannah Jones, we were talking about speaking that business language. It's the what's in it for me that you've got to think about who's receiving this. And we're not in our own echo chamber or bubble just talking about sustainability. And people's eyes glaze over and they go, yeah, blah, 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 climate. But no, we need to talk about the fact that the business reality, the business disruption, but also the business opportunity when we get it right. And then the customers, it has to be affordable. It should not cost more to live sustainably. And that's very true to our heart with wanting to side with the many people and create a world where everybody gets an equal opportunity to have a better, more sustainable life at home. So we're working really hard with our offer to customers that includes a lot around second-hand, which makes us even more affordable. Because even though we feel we're affordable now, there are still some people who can't buy new from IKEA for affordability reasons. So then the second-hand and opening up buyback and resell, peer-to-peer second-hand platforms and so on, and repairing and spare parts. So keeping products in use for longer before we even think about recycling the materials. The more we can do that up the waste hierarchy, the better. And then with our Ingka Investments, renewable energy, it can take 7 years for permitting to come through for renewable energy once we've made an agreement. I mean, that's just crazy. So again, unlocking that and saying, we're going after renewable. We want to, really invest 7.5 billion euros by 2030. We're at 4.2 billion now. And then, of course, that makes us a medium-sized energy company. And now this year we've announced a 1 billion portfolio to invest in circular and recycling solutions as well around the world. So there's so much we can do beyond advocacy that we need to get right as well. So it's about all the components coming together.
How do you create a culture where people think circular?
I mean, it starts with upskilling and awareness, right? And you talked about bubble. There is a certain sustainability bubble, and we think it's getting bigger, yes. But if you have a company of, in our case, 50,000 people, it's still only a certain strata of people who actually know what we're talking about. It's quite interesting. My boss, who's just over there, she's the board member. She's going now very regularly to regions and sort of talking about net zero, our net zero target by 2045, which we launched last year. And she said, it's amazing. People don't even know what greenhouse gas emissions are. And yes, we tend to have our own sort of echo chamber. So it's super important to invest and engage and really go out and workshop basically through these issues to raise the awareness. We have invested for a long time, and we're continuing to evolve this into broad employee engagement and upskilling on sustainability generally, on our legacy in it, on climate specifically, and we're going to develop that further. But yeah, it's an ongoing effort, but it's so important. But I think it's going to get easier once you get over a certain threshold, because you have new talent coming in, new employees. They are much more switched on. Again, the quality of questions and expectations has gone up. So you suddenly see then a mindset shift that really evolves. And I would say a third thing that is super important to make this work is that a company is really thinking about its business culture, its company culture. Because if you have a hierarchical, siloed, really strict and static culture, none of this is going to happen, because you don't allow challenge. You don't allow, pushing the needle. You have to have a culture that allows that. So entrepreneurial thinking, collaboration, empowerment, these are the three main things that need to happen.
It's been pretty difficult so far. This is actually one of the reasons why we are also here today at Action Speaks, to advocate a change in legislation. So for example, we are not allowed to ship waste mattresses cross-border, while we have dismantling locations nearby borders. So we can easily dismantle mattresses from other countries as well, but we are not allowed to export or import them. It's seen as waste, and you are not allowed to or import waste without permit. If you look to the lead time of permits, it's approximately 6 up to 9 months. It takes a very long time. Yeah, and if you look to the use of recycled materials, so we're also advocating for the use of recycled content in products. Instead of that, we have to push our materials into the market. It could create a pool. Another element is product design. We are dismantling the mattresses from 10 years ago. 10 years ago, we did not think about product design, which could make it easier for us to dismantle, to make the process more efficient, but reduce costs.
When I see something that is material, it's much easier to connect with it, and so that really resonates. Anja, would love, what is that? Is policy also the main one, or?
I will pick mindset shift. One of the things that we're really seeing with customers that get it versus customers that don't is that in order to really tackle that pesky raw materials scope 3 emission bucket, you have to go back further in your supply chain. So perhaps the average laundry detergent maker today is not going back all the way to their base chemicals. And that has maybe made sense in the past, but today when there's sustainable alternative chemicals, to really make the supply chain happen, you have to go back there. Because in order to get to the targets that we're talking about, recycling the way we normally understand it, end-of-life material, will only get us about 55% of the way there in terms of meeting demand. Bio-based solutions get you another 20%. The next generation technology now of carbon emission recycling from sites that are hard to abate, such as cement or steel, that's that last 25%. And so in order to really meet that, you need partners who understand to make a next generation happen, you have to bring together the value chain. And so that's, we're really seeing the customers that are committed. They have that aha moment when they see the slide with, that information, and they realize in order to make this happen, we really have to, what we can do, which doesn't even cost us any money, is to bring together our supply chain and scale up this solution.
If you haven't submitted a good example, like we call them, please join actionspeaks.com on the web, and you can either submit more examples or just scan the QR code if you want to be part of the community. And I also want to give a big shout out to the ChangeNOW team that is circling around here for having us, but also to the amazing team that I'm project leading, because they're also the ones that are really working with our community and sharing all of these amazing solutions. We have an exhibition of 39 square meters downstairs. We will be showing at Climate Week New York this year. Again, we will be showing up with 300 square meters. So we're also after more good examples to exhibit, and we know that they're out there. So we really want to have more. And thank you for coming and taking your time. We really, really appreciate that. So have a good afternoon, and thank you for listening to what we wanted to share with you today.
I often say to people, my favourite quote is from Robert Swan, the Arctic explorer, where he says the greatest threat to our planet is the belief that someone else will fix it. But every single individual at home, whatever they do in their daily life, can make a positive impact and really change the game. It doesn't matter how small you think you are, it matters. So people power is super important, and then big businesses need to just keep going, changing the status quo and driving that paradigm shift that we all need to strive for. It just makes good business sense. Talk about it in financials if people don't want to talk about, carbon emissions or something. Talk in the language business leaders understand.